Hello Power Rangers Lightning Collection fans, and welcome back to Lightning Storm, the series where lightning always strikes twice as we talk about everything that has happened in the past week for the Power Rangers Lightning Collection. And it's been a week. So I would say we had some good news for this week, but not a lot as the week went on. So let's just go ahead and get right on into it. First up this week, we had some more pictures and videos out there of the upcoming remastered figures, or I guess the already released remastered figures. Some places like GameStop have actually said that they're going to be out like in March or so, which is seemingly probably going to be accurate because we have gotten to see more pictures and even video reviews and unboxings and such of not only remastered blue, which we saw last weekend, but now also remastered yellow. So as we did get to see last weekend, but I didn't really comment on a ton, is the fact that we do actually get to see that the finished product does have that paint on the belt with the extra lines and everything like that. We kind of got to see a little bit more of how Billy's removable glasses work, which kind of create this giant like indent into the side of his head, which looks pretty reasonably unnatural. But I think for the most part these remastered figures look pretty solid. Are they like maybe the absolute greatest version of these figures we could ever get? Well, no, we still have a couple weird quality control things, like kind of weird sort of eyebrow looking helmets on Mighty Morphin Blue and all that kind of stuff. So just typical Lightning Collection QC problems, which is going to be illustrated or brought up again later on in this video. Oh, don't you worry. But like basically, I think these figures look pretty solid. Are they worth the $35 price point? That's kind of up for you to decide, and there will be some pre-order links for them in the description below, as well as also some of the unboxing videos and stuff like that that we had this week. Now, speaking of those, there were like third-party listings for them that popped up on Amazon US this past week, which also indicated a March release, so I would not be surprised if these get more of a March release, or maybe April at the absolute latest in the US, compared to the May release that was originally stated by Hasbro a couple weeks ago when they were officially revealed. Next up for the week, and speaking of release dates, Deluxe Wave 3 is here, kind of. So, out of nowhere this past Monday night, Entertainment Earth put Deluxe Wave 3, which of course is the Turbo Blue Centurion, in the In-Space Silver with the Silver Cycle figure, up in stock on their site. Now, for the longest time, ever since these were revealed back at the Hasbro Pulse Premium 1027 event back in October of last year, they were listed as April 1st release dates, and I talked about how they did appear on bills of lading, and they did kind of indicate that maybe they'd be here a little earlier, or Hasbro didn't, but that kind of pointed towards that direction of probably earlier than April. And also release dates have been completely meaningless for the Lightning Collection recently, so there's always that to keep in mind. But they did go up in stock on Entertainment Earth this past Monday. Now at the time of me making this video, In-Space Silver is listed as like 1 in stock. I'm not sure if it will even be in stock by the time I make this video. And it says that Blue Centurion is going to be restocking soon. So I'm going to include links for both of them in the description below. Now Entertainment Earth does sometimes take its time on processing these orders, so I'm recording this on Friday night like I usually do, and they just shipped mine out like a couple of hours ago, and I ordered it on Monday night. So hopefully I'll get to see these figures actually in hand somewhat soon, and I can't wait to see what quality control problems that these ones are going to have, because it's just kind of seeming like every single one of these figure releases at this point is going to have a quality control problem, and the next 2 stories to wrap up this week here are absolutely no exceptions here. So I guess it's time to dive into it. Okay, so S.P.D Yellow has had a pretty interesting week. So for the longest time, I kind of thought that this week's episode was just going to be a little bit of S.P.D Yellow news, with a little bit of that remastered news, and then of course Deluxe Wave 3 getting a kind of more, up to release date would kind of be the main topic or main story. However, S.P.D Yellow has kind of taken over the Lightning Collection news cycle for the week in not really the best way. So of course S.P.D Yellow is a figure we've been talking about on Lightning Storm for a good month and a half at this point or so, and don't really need to go through all of that kind of stuff again, because S.P.D Yellow did finally release this past week. So earlier this week, like late Sunday night-ish, kind of early Monday morning, it was listed on the Falcon's Hanger, which is a Singapore retailer that's kind of been notorious for leaking Lightning Collection stuff in the past. They're like the first place that got In-Space Silver's listing up there in Wave 6 back in like 2020. So they put up this like really brief pre-order window, like a pre-order window I guess, for this figure, so it kind of seemed like they were probably going to get it released in Singapore very soon, and that is exactly what happened. So, of course, and still, at the time of this video, has not been announced by Hasbro this figure's existence whatsoever. I kind of structured that sentence weird, but they have not revealed S.P.D. Yellow's figure officially. We had that tease back at PulseCon in 2022, but that is, I mean, technically an official acknowledgement, but like not the full reveal. So we have one of those classic cases where a figure has made it all the way to release, and we have not heard a single peep about it except for a bunch of leaks. How did the figure itself turn out? Well, so we got a bunch of pictures of it this past week from kind of the typical people from Singapore that we get pictures of, same kind of people that posted like the pictures of Mesagog back in early January and all that kind of stuff, and a bunch of other figures before in like 2021, even 2020 and everything. This figure looks okay. It's not the greatest looking figure, and people keep pointing out things. I'll get to one glaring thing that happened on the very first person who actually posted pictures of this, but before we get to that, people have been pointing out how like the incorrect arm symbol is there. I guess it's using a fan-made version of the S.P.D. logo badge and not like the actual show design one, which apparently I think people were saying was wrong on S.P.D. Pink or something like that. Pretty much, if you just need to see how kind of messed up the S.P.D. figures have been, especially when you have a team picture like this, which really just points out how they decided to paint certain like lines on the helmets differently or incorrectly, and how morphers don't match. You can't really see the morphers here, but like morphers don't match, and paintwork doesn't match here, and all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't, like, it's a complete, I mean, I wouldn't even count S.P.D. as complete, because I still want Cat, I still want Nova, I still want Boom, all that kind of stuff, but for the most part, the team is complete, and you look at it, and it looks kind of like a mess. Especially compared to like Dino Charge, which had its core 6 members completed recently from Wave 13, and that looks pretty solid. I talked about that in my video of Coda the other day. That team actually looks really good, even though there are some weird inconsistencies there. But the problem is, as well, is that we are going to talk about quality control stuff in a little bit, kind of moving into the last story. But literally, the first picture of this figure that we had, the person who got it got an entire duplicate set of accessories with the figure. How in the hell does that happen? So this person got like duplicate helmets, duplicate hands, duplicate weapons, duplicate morphers, and I just, what? Like, we've had a couple problems recently where, like, for example, Time Force Blue. Mine and a couple of other people's got a duplicate of like one of the holding hands instead of one of the fists you're supposed to have. So like you kind of technically got like a duplicate accessory, but you were missing one because of that. This is not that case. Here, every single thing except for seemingly the effect piece, from what I can tell, was duplicated in the box. So does that mean, I assume, that there's another S.P.D. out there somewhere that has no accessories at all? Because that's kind of what that seems to point to. So that's a complete mess. I think the figure itself, besides the badge and everything, I think the likeness looks decent enough to Monica May. I think that the accessories themselves, except for the morpher being wrong, I don't even want, like, oh my god, I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I just, you know, I'm in the middle of that sentence and I was just like, and the morpher's wrong. And I just, this is ridiculous. It just purely is. So I'm going to go and transition into the final story of this week here. So remember how last weekend I said that Wave 13 was shipping out soon from Amazon? Well, they did, and it seems like the quote-unquote like second batch of Lightning Collection Wave 13, because it's kind of hard to say, because when Wave 13, at least when the first 3/4 of it released back in November, so if you got it back in like the initial shipment from Big Bad Toy Store and stuff like that, which is where mine come from, I assume, because I got mine at the end of November, beginning of December. That's how I was able to get those videos out before Christmas. And for the most part, except for like some paint splotches and stuff and the bent sword on Izzy, they turned out pretty okay. And it seems like if you got a Wave 13 figure from that first batch, which these all could be from the same batch, but it seems like people who have been getting them more recently from Amazon or other retailers, I think Pulse also got them in stock as well, as they should have. This wave is a mess. It's a complete mess. So I've seen, let me share some of my favorites this week. So Dino Charge Blue, right? Except for all the accessories are the Putrids. Wonderful. Okay, let's see. Beast Morphers Yellow has a duplicate of one of the holding hands instead of one of the hands that she's supposed to have. Wonderful. We got the same Time Force Blue problem with her there. But Nothing is going to compare to the problems with Dino Fury Green. The amount of times I've seen posts, different people posting, that when they've gone to take the Izzy head off of the joint, because now they package the figures with the civilian heads on, and they have the helmets as an accessory, somebody goes and tries to pull the Izzy head off, and the entire neck joint breaks out of the body and becomes like a separate piece that it's not, well, it is a separate piece always, but like it's not supposed to completely detach like that. And I've seen that on so many Izzy figures so far. But I think what takes the absolute crown in terms of ridiculous quality control problems this week is the Izzy figure that I saw that was missing the entire front of the helmet, which I didn't even know was something that could possibly happen. I guess it does make sense that these are manufactured in like halves or pieces or something, but like, huh? That's an interesting one. So, here's where we're at. This is getting really, really bad. Because, you know, and I, like a lot of people in the fandom were talking about this past week, and we've talked about this so many times on Lightning Storm. Ever since they switched over to those Vietnam factories, things have just been completely disastrous for this line. And it always kind of seems to be that, like, the first couple figures, like the first batches or so, are worse than the later batches, and I can give them some sort of credit or some sort of slack for that. That shouldn't be the case, but it does seem like the later on you go, the batches seem to get better, seemingly, kind of like the ninjas, right? A year ago, the big quality control problem with the ninjas was like a big topic thing. It was actually just about, it was like maybe 13-ish months ago. It was the very beginning of 2022. I did a video very much like this one, where I just kind of ranted at the end about it for a very long period of time. And a year later, the things are just getting worse. Like, I have those 2 Deluxe Wave 3 figures on the way, because I really do want them. I think that the Silver Cycle looks pretty good. I'm really happy that people have a chance now to actually get Zane for a reasonable price, and actually probably the better version of that figure. Blue Centurion looks amazing. But I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. We haven't seen anybody get them in hand yet, so, and maybe that will change at the time of this video being out already. I doubt it, because Entertainment Earth is taking their time to ship the orders. But, like, who knows, like, what's going to happen with some of these paint applications that Blue Centurion is supposed to have? Are we going to have, like, broken Silver Cycles? Or are we going to have, you know, what missing accessories are we going to have with this and everything? And it just makes it so, you know, it just makes it so disappointing. Because this line it's supposed to be a fun kind of escapism kind of thing. I shouldn't let it, you know, I shouldn't take it so seriously, you know? But it's because I want it to succeed. I really, really do. I'm going to wrap up the rant in a second here, but I'm just upset. I genuinely am. I'm really upset. I'm really, really tired. And I'll keep trying to cover it as much as I can, but it's just, you know, as we keep going with this, I don't know how long I really can keep covering it, if it's just going to keep being this never-ending, you know, stuff where just things are not going to change ever, because it just doesn't seem like things are going to change. And I remember, you know, 4 years ago at this point, I remember when Wave 1 released. And when Wave 1 released, people were complaining about paint application problems with it. And at the time, I remember people saying, well, it's the first wave, it's going to get better. Well, it did in some areas, and in some areas it never ever has. And I think what kind of one of the perfect things is, and I know it has lots of nonsense going on at Hasbro right now, because I know, like, Star Wars put up a bunch of figures that they're like, we're not even going to take pre-orders for these, because Star Wars figures are starting to have literally hundreds of items on pre-order that are just never shipping because of delays, so we don't want to add more to that pile. But then you have things like G.I. Joe, where apparently, I didn't know this, February 1st was G.I. Joe Day. I don't know what kind of arbitrary thing made that the case, but they revealed these freaking awesome looking renders for a couple upcoming G.I. Joe figures just out of nowhere. And these look fantastic. And I have about half of the G.I. Joe Classified Series line. And it is a really good figure line, and I know nothing about that brand. It's gotten me, somebody who has never seen a single G.I. Joe thing in my entire life, and I have no interest in watching any of it anyway, buying half of their figure line. And I have never once gotten a quality control problem on any of those figures, ever. I've been consistently impressed by their accessories layout, the stuff you get for the price point, the paint applications, the details, the features, the storage mechanisms, the artwork, the consistency, the transition over to plastic free. They did really, really well. And I just don't understand why that can't happen to my favorite brand. The Lightning Collection is exactly what I've wanted out of Power Ranger figures before, and I didn't even know it. Like when they did that big promise thing at back in 2018 at Power Morphicon, which has become a very big joke at this point because they barely follow it anymore. When that was listed as kind of the promise of the Lightning Collection, I was super hyped. So hyped that I knew that this was going to be something special, and I was really, really fortunate and lucky that it was at a time in my life to where I was able to start actually making my own income and get a job and be able to actually buy these things as they came out. And I have been doing that for over 140 figures at this point, and nearly a little over 150 figures. And I just, like, so that's the thing to where I don't feel like I could ever give up the line, but I don't want to see it just, like, wither away. Because I know that they can do good stuff. They've done good stuff. But I don't know what's happening here. And it needs to be fixed. Please. Because it's terrible. But that's my little rant, I guess. I'm going to end it here. Not even going to cut to an outro thing. It's just been a very long week. It was just very unfortunate timing that all of this nonsense would fall in a week to where I was just incredibly busy with a bunch of school-related stuff. I am the most tired and stressed I think I might have ever been, and so this didn't help. And so if this was a little more of a not typical kind of Lightning Storm episode or kind of typical Toku Topics video that you're looking for, I apologize for that. Hopefully soon I'll get back into the proper mindset for this kind of thing. But I have to give you my typical Saturday Lightning Storm episode because it means a lot to me to do that for you guys. So let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of the status of the Lightning Collection? Is it time to end this? Is it time to, for Hasbro to give up, for me to give up? Where are we at with this? Because it's just, what is the too much? What is the breaking point with this? Is it ever going to get fixed? I don't know. But until next time, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Living Ranger Key or Lightning Fig PR, and I'll see you all in Lightning Storm. As usual, lightning always strikes twice. To wrap up this video, I'd like to thank my $5 and above patrons: Jurassic Samurai, Maggot Alchemist, Robert Browning, Static Thunder, Brandon Overland, Maji Yellow, Redstone MCPC, Comics 1017, James Dartley, Monster Rocket, John Luke, Eric Berry, Tyler Brzezski, Matthew Thorne, Josh Landry, and Pyramidas. You can support Toku Topics for as little as $1 a month on my Patreon, link in the description below.